Play either or with Graziano and Lewis, because these projections tell a story. This is what our analytics say. According to our group, we are headed for another Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. The Chiefs have a 19% chance to make the Super Bowl, highest of any team in the AFC. Eagles have a 20% chance to make it, highest of any team in the NFC. So here's the question I'm going to ask you, Lewis. If I'm telling you right now that one but not both of those teams are going back to the Super Bowl this year, which one would you be predicting?
I'm going to say the Chiefs. And look, I think, Greeny, that they nailed their draft. I really do. Look, when we left New Orleans this year, we knew that the Chiefs had to do something with their offensive line. I think the Chiefs got the best offensive lineman in the draft as long as Josh Simmons is healthy to start the season, or at some point during the season. He was the best offensive lineman in the draft. He was killing people before he got hurt, week 7, I believe, this year. He only played 7 games at Ohio State. If he can lock down the left side of that offensive line, along with the fact that they draft Jalen Royals, who out of Utah, or Utah State, I believe. He's a guy who looks fantastic, a guy who's another addition. On the defensive side of the football, they draft Omar Norman-Lott, Aston Gelati out of Louisville. I mean, these guys, they're bringing in a lot of young dudes to this football team to really make another run at it. And have you seen Patrick Mahomes lately? Have you seen the guy? You want to talk about scorched earth? He's coming out firing 25, man. I think this football team's going to be better, man. I really do think it's going to be better. They're going to be right back in it again out there in Santa Clara for the next Super Bowl.
What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, look, I would say Chiefs. There's more body of work here. The Eagles are fantastic. The Chiefs dominate the teams in their division. They have the clearest path to get back there. I just feel like, the Eagles have lost some depth on the defensive side of the ball. The analytics, what they can't predict is what's going to go wrong, like what's going to go terribly wrong, and none of us can. And if the Eagles suffer a key injury on defense, it might be harder to overcome that this year. What they did last year was incredible. It's just very difficult to repeat it.
All right, let me get to the next item here that I found interesting in these FPI numbers. 2 former LSU quarterbacks leading teams with very similar odds to win their divisions. Jayden Daniels and the Commanders, a 31% chance to win the NFC East. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, 29% chance to win the NFC North. Both of them are the second favorites. Graziano, if you had to pick one of those 2 LSU quarterbacks to win his division this year, which one you got?
I'm going to go with Jayden Daniels. I think he's legit. I think they've improved the group around him in terms of the offensive line. I think Deebo Samuel will obviously be a helper. The continuity on the coaching staff, so critical. First year to second year. Washington could have lost a bunch of key coaches last year off the success they had. They did not. Another season with Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn running that defense. I think Washington is for real. Plus, somebody besides the Eagles has to win the East. I don't make the rules.
That's exactly right. 21 years it's been since a team repeated. And then, Lewis, let me give you the third one here that I found interesting. The Cowboys, and we touched on this earlier, are given just a 31% chance to make the playoffs. That's the 4th lowest of any team in the NFC. They're ahead of only the Giants, Saints, and Panthers. Meanwhile, in the AFC, the Steelers have a 38% chance to make the playoffs. That ranks them 8th in the AFC. So right now I'm asking you, one of those 2 legendary powerhouse teams, and not both, is going to make the playoffs this year. You got the Steelers or the Cowboys? Lewis?
It's the Cowboys for me. And it's simply because of the quarterback situation. And I know I have talked, and I think overall the discourse surrounding Dallas has been kind of split as far as whether or not we think they're going to make, real tangible progress this year. I think they're going to be better in Pittsburgh. I think they have a much better chance of making the playoffs in Pittsburgh because the quarterback is better. I mean, it's as simple as that. They have made some key additions on the perimeter, obviously with George Pickens, who they took away from Pittsburgh, and having CeeDee Lamb. And the offensive line in Dallas is going to be better than what Pittsburgh's is. So, look, this is really easy for me. And, and I know the people in Pittsburgh right now are sitting there thinking, look, Will Howard can hold down the fort. Mason can hold down the fort. Not when you're talking about this, man. Not when we're talking about playoff contention, Super Bowl contention. It's just not good enough there. Dallas has got a leg up on them significantly as far as this discussion is concerned.
What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, never going to dismiss Mike Tomlin's ability to get a substandard looking roster into the playoffs. He's done it many times, but Dallas is going to be better, I think. Obviously, getting Dak Prescott back from injury, they're getting a lot of key guys back from injury on the defensive side of the ball as well. The offensive line, losing Zach Martin is tough, but they've been anticipating that, and they've been drafting for it. So I think Dallas, I understand where the analytics is coming from. The two teams that were in the NFC Championship game last year are in Dallas's division. That is tough to overcome, but I do think they'll be an improved team over last year, and I think a lot of people who are looking at it are underestimating how improved they can be.
Yeah, Graz, you said it earlier, and I like the way you put it. In an offseason where everyone was desperately trying to get better at quarterback, the Cowboys are, for all intents and purposes, adding Dak Prescott. No one is getting better at quarterback more than they are. ESPN's FBI has the Eagles with a 20% chance to make the Super Bowl, which is the highest of any team in the NFL. So my question is, are you buying that the Eagles have the best chance of any team to make it to the Super Bowl?
Now, I got to be the wet blanket here and sell. I mean, look, the Eagles are great, and there's every reason to love them, but it's just so hard to repeat. We even saw it a couple of years ago when the Eagles looked like they should be the class of the NFC, and they fell apart late. A lot of things have to go right. San Francisco should be better. Dallas should be better. The North is still loaded. I think it's tough to say the Eagles get back in there. Plus, Greeny, remember, they can't win their division.
That's right. That no team has repeated in 21 years. Who is the biggest threat, Louis Riddick? This right now, who do you think is the biggest threat to Philadelphia in the NFC?
It's Washington. It's Washington, Green, because they're making all the right moves. Look, I know we want to conveniently say, well, Jayden Daniels can't have another season like he had last year. Well, why not? Why can't he? Did Cliff Kingsbury go anywhere? No. Did they add some protection on the offensive line? Yeah. Laramie Tunsil and the drafting of Josh Connerly are huge. It's huge. It all started up front with them anyway. Deebo Samuel, that acquisition is huge because we know he's a multi-tool player. And we know that a guy like Jalen Lane, who they draft from Virginia Tech, he's an absolute stud in terms of his ability to add another speed component to go along with Terry McLaurin. And really, you know what? Here's the biggest thing. If they hit on Trey Amos, the corner that they draft out of Ole Miss, and we saw Washington just get obliterated in the NFC Championship game by Philadelphia through the air on the perimeter. If Trey Amos can be that dude, I'm telling you, everything is looking up for Washington. Everything is looking up.
I completely agree. We'll see if they're able to have the bigger year in the second season for the quarterback. Of all the numbers that I saw yesterday, one that really jumped out at me was this. Our FPI has the 49ers with an over 62% chance to make the playoffs. You're saying, what does that mean? It means they have the third best chance of any team in the NFC behind only the Eagles and the Lions. It's telling us they are the best team in the NFC West. Lewis, are you buying that?
No, I'm not. Look, this situation here worries me because, one, let's just start on the offensive side of the football, and let's talk about this offensive line, which, along with the defensive line, has been a hallmark of this organization. It's really set the tone in terms of the way that they like to play. What will that unit look like, okay? Number two, what will Christian McCaffrey's availability look like in terms of his durability? Is it ever going to be where they really need it to be? Is he going to be a 16, 17